Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. How are you this evening? Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you doing that. If you are new to the podcast, please subscribe. I appreciate it. And also, please like the podcasts. If you're watching on Getter, you can go to YouTube and you can watch previous podcasts. Just look for Mary Walter Radio. And you want to click on the live tab. That's what you want to click on. You want to click on the live tab in order to watch. I don't know why it's the third tab. I don't know why it's not home, but it is the live tab. And if you are watching on Getter, last week, I don't know what happened, but apparently we didn't go live on Getter. I don't know what happened. I don't know how that happened. All I know is we didn't go live on Getter. So there was one viewer, and that was it. And I think that was probably someone who saw it on another platform, and so they watched it. Thank you, I appreciate it. And so hopefully, if you're watching and Getter, just let me know so I can see what's going on here. So we'll see what happens on Getter. Just because, like I said, we didn't go live on Getter. So another crazy week, and tonight's show, I usually have a guest, but sometimes I do it by myself. And I it's just you and me tonight. And I kind of like those shows. No offense to any of my guests, but I like those shows because you guys leave such great comments and topics, and you leave questions, etc. And I do like that. So let's start out with our comments. Remember, the audio will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just look for Mary Walter Radio. And that's one of the reasons I read the comments, is for people who are just listening who can't see the screen. They can hear the comments that are being read. And if you're making a comment I'm getting to it super late or something like that, and we've moved on, I'm just not going to read it. It's nothing personal. Okay. Let's see. Oreo is here. I didn't know if you're going to be on tonight because of your schedules. Crazy schedule. So tomorrow I will be in for David Webb on SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125. I'm on there from 9 a.m. to noon. Thursday, I'm on KFAB out of Nebraska from 3 to 7 p.m. This is Eastern time, of course. And then on Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, I am on WHO out of Idaho. That's a new station for me. So we'll see what happens there. That'll be fun. Bill is here. Oreo says, awesome music. So that's some of the free porn music we get to play. And I owe an apology to Ron, because he did send me music that he created and he said, feel free to use it. And I totally forgot. So I'm super sorry, Ron. And it's polka music, because we were talking about the polka last week. So he sent me some polka music. And so we can maybe do that next week. There's no show. That's the other thing. No show next Tuesday. Sorry, there's no show next Tuesday. But then we'll be in October and we can play Ron's polka music. Okay, now Tax USA is here. Scott is here. D. Stewart, we've got a new welcome, D. Stewart. Welcome to the party. It's so good to see you. Dan Byer is back. Yay. Hermit Sal is here. Star Driver kicks. Star Driver 1 says, kicks the barn door open. Hi, kids. I believe Star Driver 1 is somewhere out west, if I am correct, because he called into the David Webb show today. Watching Your Back is here. Suze Loves Jeffy is here. Jeffy's a lucky man. Oreo. Everyone's saying hello to everybody else. Greg says, don't ask Her Highness about how she feels about Judge Joe Brown. If you want to know how I feel about Judge Joe Brown, go to YouTube and look up the Chris Salcedo show, Newsmax's Chris Salcedo show, and watch yesterday's episode. Towards the end of it, we were on probably about 4:40, so 40 minutes past the top of the hour. And for a hot second, I thought that was Willie Brown, not Judge Joe Brown. I did. I kind of got it mixed up. Mangomush says, Mary won't like this song, but I was listening to Evisceration Plague when I got the notification. Mary, what is who listens to music called Evisceration Plague? Porch View Farm is here. Star Driver's getting new tires on the semi, so I might be in and out still in California. First question from Dan. He says, first query, do you do all the radio shows from your home office? Yes, I do. I've had a home studio since 2011. I was ahead of the curve. I was working for Fox News Radio, and Fox News Radio was in its infancy. Well, not really infancy at the time. They launched in '06 when I started with them in '06. And in 2011, they decided that they wanted someone who was not located in the New York offices or the Washington, D.C. offices. It was kind of like a disaster contingency plan. So that left me. And so they helped me put a studio in my home. Now, when I say studio, I use the term loosely. And maybe one of these days I'll post pictures of my studio. If you watch WPHT when I'm a guest on the morning show with Nick Kale and Greg Stocker, when I sit in for Dawn Stenslin, you get a little bit of a view of it. And everybody makes fun that I'm in my shed or I'm in a hostage video, but it's in the attic. And the walls, so you have the walls are at angles, which actually is really good for the acoustics. And it's painted white because it's a bathroom, and the third floor was the servants' floor, which that existed in this house before income tax. After income tax, there were no more servants in the house. So so I literally have a card table that actually I've upgraded to one of those plastic folding tables, for like kids. Got a plastic folding table, and I have, and it faces the tub, the cast iron tub. And there's a non-functioning toilet. There's no water running up there, and I've got a sink to my left. I've got a toilet to my far left, and then in front of me is the bathtub. And I'm in a corner. I've got my little space, but it works really, really well. And I have all of my equipment there, my microphone, and I have my screens, and yeah. So I do it all from home. Susie says this is a much nicer view, Mary. Thank you. Hopefully soon, all these walls will be coming down because they're plaster and they are falling apart. Back here, we literally had to glue some of the plaster back on the wall because it fell off onto the floor. So we wanted to repair them, but it's really super expensive and you can't get anybody to do that anymore. You have to find a little like elderly Italian man, and they're really hard to come. Well, not New Jersey, but you have to find someone who knows what he's doing, and it's super, super expensive. So they're coming down. And the walls on the other rooms here are all coming down. All the plaster is going bye-bye. And it's, we're putting up wallboard and making it nice. So it'll be great. And Jack C, hostage video checking in from Texas. Hello, Jack. How are you? Oreo says, hit that like button. I will take away your Oreos and keep them for myself. Aha. All right, let's get going here. Shall you? Thank you. Oh, Mango Bush 1210 is here for you, Mary. Thank you, Mango Bush. I love you guys. Did you guys see the picture of me and Greg at the conference when we were down in Washington, D.C.? What it's been? I think it's been a month. I think it was 4 weeks ago. Did you see the picture that I took with Greg? We were sitting there, Coronas outside because there was no place to go to drink, and Greg went and got a 6-pack of Corona. If you haven't seen it, let me know and I'll see if I can upload it from my phone, which I'm pretty sure I can't, but I can for next time. All right, so let me know and I'll do that for next time. So here's the thing. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. In no particular order, but I thought this was super important, and I talked about it when I was in for Todd Starnes on what's today? Yesterday on Todd Starnes show. Yeah, I can't remember because I've been all over the place. So there was a report that was released on Friday, and Republicans, of course, will replace things on Friday, which is ridiculous because it doesn't get any play whatsoever. And they're horrible at owning the message. So I want to share this with you. And you can find this at cha.house.gov. I'll actually post the link in the description of the video when I'm done on the air here, and then I have to go get ready for radio tomorrow. But I'll post the link in the description on YouTube because I can't edit the Getter one, but I can edit the YouTube one. So I will put it in there. And here's what it says. It's from the Committee on House Administration, dated September 4th. The Committee on House Administration's Subcommittee on Oversight Chair, this Barry Loudermilk, revealed that days before January 6th of 2021, President Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders, urging them to do their jobs to protect life and property. The transcripts released show Trump gave senior Pentagon leadership directives to keep January 6th peaceful, including using the National Guard, which the Pentagon leaders ignored. Trump was right again. Once again, Trump was right. This revelation directly contradicts the conclusions drawn in the flawed Department of Defense IG report on January 6, 2021. In response to these revelations, Chairman Loudermilk released the following statement. Pentagon leadership prioritized concerns of optics over their duty to protect lives. President Trump met with senior Pentagon leaders and directed them to make sure any events on January 6, 2021 were safe. It is very concerning that these senior Pentagon officials ignored President Trump's guidance and misled congressional leaders to believe they were doing their job when they were not. The DoD IG's report is fundamentally flawed. It does not draw conclusions from the interviews they conducted, but pushes a narrative to keep their hands clean. We have many questions for them, and we will continue to dig until we are satisfied the American people know the truth. The American people never saw this, which is why I'm sharing it with you. The American people never saw this. Now, if you decide to go this, I highly recommend you click on the link. Like I said, I'll put it in here after the show. You can click to read the transcripts themselves in full that they're talking about here. You can also see excerpts from the transcripts. There's also a full breakdown of the Pentagon leaders' choices to ignore President Trump's directives. Let's see what else. There's also a timeline in here too. There's a timeline. You just got to kind of scroll through it. But what you'll immediately link to is just kind of like a one sheet. And as you go through it, you'll see the different links. And one of them is a timeline. So I'm trying not to bore you, but let me share this with you. Okay. Previously concealed by the Biden-Harris administration's Department of Defense, the subcommittee has uncovered statements by key personnel involved in the deployment of the DC National Guard to the Capitol on January 6, 2021. These new transcripts indicate that senior Pentagon officials unnecessarily delayed the DC National Guard response to the Capitol on January 6 due to optics concerns. The DoD IG claims that the actions of the Pentagon were reasonable in light of the circumstances. The IG also determined that DoD officials did not delay or obstruct the response for assistance on January 6th. Now, they say the transcripts reveal otherwise. And here are just a couple of outtakes. I don't want to bore you, but I find this fascinating. So if I'm boring you, just tell me. General Mark Milley, General Mark Milley, that guy. On January 3rd, 2021, the president says, these are quotes from transcripts. The president says, hey, look at this. There's going to be a large amount of protesters here on the 6th. Make sure that you have sufficient National Guard or soldiers to make sure it's a safe event. Another quote from him. POTUS said, being Trump, hey, I don't care if you use Guard or soldiers or active duty soldiers. Do whatever you have to do. Just make sure it's safe. So Trump requested, told them you need to do. He gave them the authority. I want it to be safe. You need to do what you do best. Christopher Miller, the acting Secretary of Defense, quoted in his transcript as saying, quote, the president commented that they were going to need 10,000 troops the following day. I interpreted it as a bit of presidential banter or President Trump banter that you are all familiar with, and in no way, shape, or form did I interpret that as an order or direction. On January 6th, everyone was like, did you listen to the president's speech? I'm like, the guy speaks for 90 minutes. It's like Castro or something. No, I got work to do. I was cognizant of the fears that the president would invoke the Insurrection Act to politicize the military in an anti democratic manner. And just before the Electoral College certification, 10 former secretaries of defense signed an op ed piece published in the Washington Post warning of the dangers of politicizing and using inappropriately the military. No such thing was going to occur under my watch. So the acting secretary of defense said, no, that's not going to happen under my watch, despite the president telling them, you need to make this safe. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you use the National Guard. I don't care if you use the military. You have to make this safe. So that wasn't going to happen under my watch. Quote, there is absolutely no way I was putting US military forces at the Capitol, period. So he chose to make his own decision, not do what the president told him to do. The operational plan was this: let's take the DC National Guard, keep them away from the Capitol. Stephen Sund, U.S. Capitol Police, this guy was the fall guy. Remember, Nancy Pelosi made him resign in disgrace because he was the fall guy. And he was the one who said, that's not the story. The story they're telling you, he's the one who came forward because they made him resign and said, no, this is not what's happened. Here's what he said. And these are just excerpts. You can read all of it at this link. He said, I'm making an urgent request for the National Guard. We are being overrun. I gave a quick rundown of what we had going on and that officers out there are fighting for their lives. We were about to be taken over. The representative from the Secretary of the Army said, quote, I don't like the optics of National Guard standing in a line with the Capitol in the background. I explained to them that the building is being breached. I need their assistance immediately. He, General Pyatt, said, my recommendation to the Secretary of the Army is to not support the request. So it was requested several times. It was requested before January 6th. It was requested on January 6th. And the military and unelected bureaucratic branch of this government, unelected bureaucrats, decided, no, we don't like those optics. Trump was right again. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay. On January 5th, the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, placed restrictions, unprecedented restrictions, this is from the report, from the DC National Guard commander, Major General William Walker, to prevent any movement to the Capitol without his, Secretary Ryan McCarthy's, explicit permission. On January 6th and 7th, the DC National Guard could not move unless he himself personally told them they could move. On January 6th, the outer perimeter on the west front of the U.S. Capitol was breached by rioters at 12:53. Remember, Trump was still speaking at 12:53. Okay, so that was at 12:53. So if he motivated them to do that, I did it really early in the speech because they were there at 12:53 already breaching the Capitol. The DC National Guard arrived 5 hours later. 5 hours later. These transcripts prove President Trump's senior Pentagon leaders were focused on optics instead of doing their jobs. The Director of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Walter Pyatt, is quoted in his transcripts as saying, was optics a concern for us as we prepared to use soldiers in downtown Washington, D.C.? Absolutely. End quote. As optics were being discussed, and Secretary McCarthy, the one who is the only one who can give the go-ahead, claims he was developing a plan, the DC National Guard was ready to move. They were less than 2 miles from the Capitol, awaiting Secretary McCarthy's authorization. Major General William Walker, he's the DC National Guard commander, his general counsel, Colonel Earl Matthews, in his transcript said, we were seeing the Congress of the United States being overrun, and the Guard, and the Capitol Police, and the Metro PD. They need help. We had people at the DC Army who were able to help, and they were not ing. They were not allowed to move. Remember, we know that they were just stuck in the armory. They weren't allowed to go because McCarthy didn't give them permission. He didn't call and say, okay, now you can go. And they're watching this, and they're 2 miles away, and they can help and do their job. And we know that Stephen Sund was asking for them to come. and nothing. They were getting nothing. The DC National Guard Command Sergeant Major Michael Brooks said that they were ready to go, that we couldn't understand why they were just sitting there, literally sitting on a bus, just waiting to drive to the Capitol and do the best they could to support Capitol Police. At 3:04, now the Capitol was breached just before 1 o'clock. Trump didn't stop speaking till like 1:20. At 3:04, Miller provided verbal approval to Secretary McCarthy, the guy who says you can only move if I say yes, to that guy, for immediate deployment of the DC National Guard. They did not get that order until 5:08, 2 hours and 4 minutes later. What was he doing? Why did it take 2 hours and 4 minutes to get that order to the National Guard? He didn't communicate that for 2 hours and 4 minutes. At 3:18, Secretary McCarthy told congressional Democratic leadership that the DC National Guard had the green light and that they were moving, yet he never notified the DC National Guard. But he told Democrat leadership that the National Guard's on the way. He lied. 2 hours passed before the deployment order was actually communicated to the DC National Guard. They were in that time for hours. The DC National Guard was trying to reach him. The DC National Guard Adjutant General Aaron Dean said Walker tried to call Secretary Ryan McCarthy 3 times between 2:30 and 5 p.m. He said, I haven't heard from him all day. When he tried to call his cell phone, it went straight to voicemail. Boom. How is that not in the news? And I'm sorry I read for so long. I apologize for that. But I know some people aren't gonna get to it, aren't gonna get to look at it. But I just find that to be so mind-blowing because all the left of us, January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. And now that's going to slowly disappear. And all you're going to hear is Project 2025, Project 2025. They always have to have some lie that they use to beat Trump. But Trump was right again. Again. Everything they tell us is a conspiracy or this happened or that happened is always, always proven wrong. They're wrong. And Trump and the left are right. Okay. Sue says that I have a really old house with plaster. Jeffy can fix that. Can he do all my walls? All these walls where the plaster is cracked and falling down? He could do all of them. I can't imagine that that's cheap. Message me. We'll see what happens. Also depends on where you are. Okay. Porchview Farm, her second half, other half can do it as well. Let's see. I'm trying to get through. There's some great conversation going on here. Sorry. Jack C says Pelosi already admitted that it was all her fault. The mainstream media just downplayed it like everything else the Dems do. Squeaky's here. Ron, apologize for not using your music. I forgot. Scott, I have always said this from day one that they allowed this to happen. Oreo, I think January 6th committee should be prosecuted or charged. They should be. They destroyed the evidence. They got rid of all the videotaped transcripts. They got rid of all of the videotaped interviews. They only left transcripts. And those transcripts are damning enough. Imagine what was on those videotapes that they didn't, the transcripts of which they didn't supply to the Congressional Oversight Committee. Right? Dan says, funny thing, January 6th, we knew that for years. It was a total false flag. I was on a plane watching TV. The agent provocateurs were doing their stuff. Co-Intel Pro crap 1960s deep state ops. Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Oreo said they didn't want it to look like a military coup. Maybe. Jack says, until we get a Republican AG in the DOJ, none of the January 6th committee will be held accountable. Just on destroying evidence alone should get them charged. It should, but they're not going to be. They're all going to be gone. They're going to be gone to the winds. They'll track down a grandma who walked into the Capitol through an open door, didn't damage anything, looked around, said a prayer, spoke to a Capitol police officer, and left. They raided that woman. And she had to go to Washington, D.C. for her trial. So she had to pay for it. She had to pay for a hotel room. She had to pay all these expenses. And then they were going to put her in jail. But they decided to give her 4 months house arrest. But the people on that January 6th committee who lied through their ever-loving teeth to the American public to interfere with elections, those people are going to get away with it because they're part of the elite. They're part of the ruling elite. And that's part of our problem. Here, Dan makes a great point. Milley committed treason again. He got lots of guys slaughtered in Iraq. He also violated the Logan Act. Remember, in January, before Trump left, Milley called China and had a discussion with them. So he was acting in his official capacity, and he was acting on behalf of the American government, assuring China that Trump wouldn't be allowed to do anything crazy before he left office. That's a Logan Act violation. But of course, nothing. Let's see. Antifa people wear MAGA hats were not arrested. Yeah, there were quite a few people who never really. Ray Epps is really like the one that everybody remembers because he was on so many videos being told, telling people to go into the Capitol. Like, yeah, but he didn't go into the Capitol. Like, so if I urge a bunch of people to break into your home, like, go in there, break into their house, go ahead. I didn't break in, so it's okay. I'm not pretty sure that's not how it works. Dan says 1964 DC, we did a candlelight march across the Potomac in Vietnam protests into DC. Armed U.S. military, not guard, bayonet fixed, were lined up on top of the buildings watching. It was a big deal. Herman Sal makes a great point. Nancy Pelosi's video filming daughter recorded Nancy saying that she rejected the National Guard being called in and took the blame for this. Oh, he said, Mary, you're never boring. Thank you. I think my husband would disagree with you. So would most of my family. Now Tax USA. Great, by the way. Check out that organization, Now Tax USA. They have some great ringtones you can put on your phones. I'm going to cough. Hold on. Excuse me. They have some great ringtones you can put on your phone. Oh, there we go. And they're free. So check out Now Tax USA. Says there has never been another person persecuted and lost as many human rights than Trump. Sadly, demo communists have set the stage for the rest of us. Individual sovereignty or tyranny, no in between. Lauren, hey Lauren. He watched it on TV after he said he was going to the Capitol with the crowd. He said he was going to walk down there with them, but his Secret Service protection wouldn't let him go. They wouldn't let him go to the Capitol. But remember, the breach of the Capitol, the actual breach of the Capitol, started 20 minutes before Trump was even finished speaking. Before he even said, "Let's go down and peacefully make our voices heard." So, yeah, he watched it on TV. They wouldn't let him. The Secret Service said, "No, you can't go." I remember, and that's what was it? Cassidy Hutchinson lied under oath and said that he grabbed the wheel. He lunged over and grabbed the wheel of the beast of his car. Remember, and attacked the Secret Service officer driving. She wasn't in the car, but someone told her that. And then the Secret Service officer sitting in the back seat with Trump said that never happened. But she was never jailed for lying under oath to Congress. Weird. Thank you, Sal. Shore Essentials, just think, if that delay hadn't happened, how many of the hundreds of police officers tragically slain that day would still be alive? Oh, wait, no more slain that day. Gonna miss you at the reunion on Saturday, Jerry. We have our high school reunion Saturday. Scott says maybe they didn't want any military people swarming around DC. Maybe they considered it would be a bad look. They did. It's exactly what it said. Bad optics, bad look. And it could be worse than anything else that could happen. I don't think it would have been worse than anything else that would have happened. If they had put a ring around it like they do, now Congress protects itself with the big fences, but they tell us fences don't work. Fences are racist. Remember when fences are racist, except when they want to protect themselves. Then they put them around the Capitol to keep people out. They can protect it when they want to. They clearly didn't want to. The only casualty that day was Ashley and Roseanne Boyland. She died as well. We saw it on different channels and internet channels too. Yeah, I think we all did, Lauren. We all watched it. Ashley Babbitt, yes. Millie is a Chi-Com asset. Maybe. He may be. Dan says smartphone tech, the DOJ got the ping data as well as money receipts from ATMs, etc. Get a flip phone, take the battery out, and use cash next time. Yeah, but they still don't know who put the bombs around on January 5th when Kamala Harris was supposedly at the DNC and there was a bomb placed right outside the DNC, supposedly, remember? but they just don't know who it was. But they could get all the cell phones from January 6th and work that out. But they couldn't do it on January 5th. And having worked in DC, you can't go anywhere without being going on a camera. It's like London, where everything you do, you walk from this block to this block, and the camera here picks you up, and then the camera there picks you up. We know they had video of that person in the hoodie sitting on a park bench speaking on his or her phone, who supposedly placed the bombs. And it's weird how they didn't get that ping, right? They didn't see, they know if you come out of the metro, they have cameras right there. They can look at the metro and see, where stops were gone on and gotten off. If did they walk to the metro, get on a subway and leave? Well, the time, you could pretty much see how many people bought tickets in that metro or used tickets in that metro, right? It's super easy to do. I don't think this is that hard, but you don't find what you're not looking for. So they could do what they wanted. They had the technology for January 6th, but shockingly lacked it on January 5th. The optics would have looked bad for then President Trump. I don't think they were protecting President Trump, Lauren. That's the difference, because President Trump told them, I want you to do what you have to do to prevent any kind of violence. I want you to do that, and gave them the order to do. Told them, I don't care if you use the soldiers. I don't care if you use the National Guard. You do what you have to do to protect people. And they made the decision on their own to not do that. So the commander in chief told them what to do. And the members, director of the Army staff, and especially this, what's his name here? Ryan. What was his name? Ron McCarthy, Secretary of the Army. He was the one who said, I will make the decision. Totally ignoring and going against the commander in chief's orders. Told them what to do. He had a meeting with them and told them what to do and gave them a lawful order. They chose not to carry it out. That's not protecting the president, in my humble opinion. Sue says lots of casualties of innocent people after the fact. Where are we? Yes, coughing unfocuses Mary's camera. Yes, it does. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, when I cough, I move out of the range of the camera. I kind of like moved over, and it makes it. I just did it again, and it makes my camera go all crazy. Star Driver, remember when they put up fences and had the National Guard there to protect them? Don't forget, Nancy made the National Guard sleep in a cold parking garage till Trump opened up his hotel to the National Guard. That's right. Oh, innocents were jailed. Yes. Jack, then the pipe bombs mysteriously disappeared and the bomb-sniffing dogs passed right by them. Yes, that is very true. We have that video too. We've seen that. No pings for the contractor who placed the bombs. Hermit Sal, they seem to use selective technology when it involves Trump. Star Driver says the three-letter agencies all had their special ops teams staged at Quantico. Now Tax USA says, the swamp thinks we are all boobs and idiots. We have the chance to vote Trump in and hope the Republicans can support Trump this time. I think Republicans will be our next fight. They very well may be. Okay, so I'll put that link up. As I said, I will do that when we're done here. I got to feed the cats first, and then I'll put it up. I also wanted to share this with you. So after the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on ABC, there were allegations that, and even beforehand, people were saying, oh, she's going to do, they're going to give her the questions ahead of time. Remember, Candy Crowley jumped in to help Barack Obama with Mitt Romney. And then Donna Brazile gave questions to Hillary Clinton when she was working at CNN and the debate was on CNN. Well, Donna Brazile works at ABC now. So it's not that far-fetched. And there was like, oh, it's conspiracy theory. Well, the ABC whistleblower who claimed that ABC News gave Kamala Harris the presidential debate questions ahead of the presidential debate officially filed a complaint with the SEC on Friday. So this whistleblower has given a complaint, signs it, swears to it, to the Security and Exchange Commission. As of Friday, the SEC has acknowledged receipt of two complaints lodged against Disney, the owner of ABC News, and ABC News. The complaint states that ABC News and their parent company Disney colluded with Kamala Harris, her presidential campaign, to influence the presidential debate on September 10th and to further influence the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. Notice there was no whistleblower with Donna Brazile. Was there? Is that, or how do we find out about Donna Brazile? I forget. But at least this whistleblower is coming forward early enough for it not to be after the fact. And we could say, okay. The complaint shows documents uploaded to the official SEC complaint system and a screenshot of the uploaded file that the whistleblower claims contains evidence of the collusion. Now, it was filed at 10:16 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. The complaint reads, and this is only in part, quote, I have heard and observed conversations and have evidence in hand of ABC News, a wholly owned subsidiary of Disney Media Networks, which is a division of the Walt Disney Company, collusion between ABC News and the Kamala Harris campaign for the presidency of the United States. It is my belief from the context of the conversations that ABC News in the debate held on September 10th, 2024, and at other various times before and after this debate to influence the presidential election. I would like to emphatically state that I am not a Donald Trump supporter and have never voted for Donald Trump. The context of the conversations heard, and among other observations, is that ABC News is working with the Kamala Harris campaign and that Disney may exact monetary or other future considerations if they aid in the election of Kamala Harris. What did the left call that? What was that? Oh, wait, quid pro quo, I believe that was. The left impeached Donald Trump for an alleged quid pro quo. You know, like when Joe Biden told Ukraine, if you don't fire this guy, we're not going to give you the money. That's a quid pro quo. So if we help you out, if we help you get elected, we work with your campaign, then we'll get some monetary considerations, maybe some other favorable, regulations. Yeah, that's a quid pro quo. I have sat idly by for years and watched the media on both sides of the political spectrum become nothing more than campaign ads for politicians. It is clear that there are multiple considerations being exchanged in this current presidential campaign. I have enclosed further evidence for your consideration. Please note this evidence contains personal information of mine, and I wish for it to remain undisclosed for safety considerations for my family. So that's all we know. We do not get to see the evidence that this person has submitted. And I'm sure the SEC is where this complaint is going to go to die until after the election. And then it'll be like, oh, yeah, that's what it was. Lauren said, not the earrings from Tiffany. No, not the earrings, Lauren. That was pretty funny when that was going around. No, that was to me, that was a bit too far. Gregory says, I think Donna Brazile wrote about it in her book. Man, if that's true, how ballsy are you to write about cheating and how you helped someone cheat to illegally influence a presidential election because you know you're going to get away with it? That's ballsy. But it's different when they do it, right? Scott says the debate was a production show put on by ABC and Trump was the victim. Yeah, he was debating 3-on-1. He also, Star Driver says the problem is the FEC won't look at any complaints from, well, this is the SEC, S as in C, Security and Exchange Commission. Won't look at any complaints for 120 days. They stated that when the Republicans filed a complaint that Kamala did not file for running, she piggybacked off Biden. He should not debate it again. I agree with you. He should not debate again. The only way he should debate if it's on Fox or Newsmax. Why do Democrats always get to make the rules? Why do they always get to pick the outlets? Why do they always get to say, no, I'm not going to debate on Fox. I'm not going to debate on Newsmax. I get to pick the, why did Biden get to make all the rules for the first debate? Why does Kamala get to make? Well, Kamala had to abide by the rules that Biden made. So at least it was that. But Trump said, I want a second debate. Let's set it up now. And you want yours on ABC. I want another one on Fox. And she said, no. Why do they always get to make the rules? So I agree. He should not debate again. Star Driver says, also the president in charge of entertainment at ABC is Kamala's BFF and introduced Kamala to her husband. Bingo. You're 100% right. But here's the rub. So I found out about that when they were talking about that before the debate, which is why everybody was saying she's going to get the questions ahead of time because she's going to get the questions ahead of time. What kind of friend is that who says to you, so I know you're single and I know you're looking and I got this guy. It's a friend, makes a lot of money. So I think you're going to like him. And so, you say to your friend, well, if this guy's so great, why is he single? And your friend says, well, he did knock up the nanny. And so his wife divorced him. What kind of friend sets you up with a guy like that and says, this is the guy I think you should marry? This is the guy you need in your life. Who does that? How is that a friend? I feel like I wouldn't be friends with that person ever again. But clearly she said, okay, I'm in, and they're happily married, I guess. I don't know. But then again, she was a side chick for Willie Brown. He was married in the left youth, but he was separated for 13 years. I don't care, he was still married. If that was Trump, you would say, well, Trump was married. Like I could say, well, he was separated for 13 years, and they go, he's an adulterer. They would still slam it. So when you note to them, I got blocked today on X for noting to someone that, well, you slammed Trump for having affairs, alleged affairs, but we know that Harris had an affair with a married man. Isn't the woman just as culpable as the man? Isn't the single woman having the affair with the married man just as culpable as the married man having the affair with the single woman? I got blocked for that. They didn't like that at all. Did not like that missed debate is another reason that I do not watch ABC News. They're an example of gangster reports and drive-by media. I don't watch them either. With all the trash reporting and TV junk, it almost makes you want to find something else more truthful. CBS broke the Brazil Hillary story. Okay, thank you. Now, Tax USA, I think the debate was a boomerang. The more media analyzed Kamala, the better Trump came out ahead. Brazil knows she can cheat as long as Biden's in charge. Lauren says Trump was not a victim if she can get under his skin. Other leaders in the world may be able to. That's weak. I agree that she got under his skin. He took the bait. I thought Trump did not perform well in that debate 100%. But Trump has a proven track record with other leaders. I give you the Abraham Accords, for instance. He got Kim Jong-un to stop firing rockets at Japan and Hawaii. And there were no new wars that broke out under Trump. Do you know Putin invaded Ukraine under George Bush, Obama? I think George H.W. I think it was under both Bushes. Well, one of the Bushes, Obama and Biden, but not Trump. There's something to it. So I think he knows how to get along with foreign leaders. And can you see her talking to Putin and she goes to tell him about, well, I grew up in a middle class family, which by the way is a lie. She grew up in one of the wealthiest enclaves up in Canada where she lived. So that was a lie. Grew up in a middle class family and everybody loved their lawns and they took pride in their lawns. And she goes, how is she going to have a conversation with Putin or China? Well, China, although Iran hacked Trump's campaign and gave the information to several members of the Biden campaign. They said, here, we got the stuff for you if you want it, and also to WAPO and to Politico, and they just gave them some of it and said, you can have the rest of it, just contact us. But some of it, in one case, was over 200 pages on J.D. Vance, all internals from the Trump campaign. And you know what? The Biden administration didn't blow the whistle on it. Oh, no, the Biden administration kept quiet and took what they got. Oh, yeah. We found out about it. It was even found that it was even hacked because WAPO and Politico came forward to the Secret Service and said, hey, we were given this stuff and it's clearly hacked from the Trump campaign. The Biden campaign kept it. So I'm sure it was transferred to the Harris campaign. Why does Iran want Harris and at the time Biden, Harris now to win? Why do the Iranians want them to win so much so that they were willing to hack the Trump campaign and distribute the information to the Democrats and liberal news outlets? Why? Everybody talks about Trump and Putin, Trump and Putin, Trump and Putin. What about Harris and Iran? Nobody talks about that. I love this. You have to vote her in to know her policies, like Nancy Pelosi and Obamacare. Exactly. Gregory, the only good thing about that debate was the song it spawned by the Kifness eating the cats. Yeah, when he said that, I was like, oh, come on, really? But I bet you we find out that that's true too, because everything we find out is eventually turns out to be true. Everybody gets mocked, he gets mocked, his followers get mocked, and then very silently, all the facts come out like January 6th, and we're like, told you. Hermit Sal says the Dems usually get to make the rules because Republicans usually don't have the balls to tell the Dems to shove it. You are so, so true. We need more women on the Republican side because the Republican women's are the ones with all the balls. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's see who else. Elise Stefanik, Malliotakis. There's several women on the Republican side. They've got all the balls. The men do not. Scott, the only way is if Trump gets to pick the person that questions her and Harris can pick the person who questions Trump. Oh, I like that. She'd never agree to it. Trump would agree to it. She would never agree to it at all. She can't. She can't speak. Trump needs to say he will debate Kamala on CNN, but then he gets to have either Tucker Carlson or Peter Doocy as one of the moderators. No deal or no deal. That would be fantastic. Let's see. Willie Brown and Montel Williams and attended at least one of Diddy's parties. Yeah, she wasn't one of Diddy's parties, but Montel Williams was not married when she was dating him, right? Was he? Was he married when she was dating him? Was that a second side chick gig that she had? I don't know. Lauren Boebert, yep, she's another one. Lauren Yates, I think, makes a good point here. She said JD Vance was a bad choice. I want to know if you agree with that. I don't love JD Vance. I don't know anything about JD Vance. I don't know. But to be fair, Tim Walz is an awful choice. Dear Lord, that guy's awful. He bounces around this stage like he was a backup dancer for the Village People in the 70s. He's constantly with the hands. He's got the hands going on. He's got jazz hands. And the best thing ever, though, that I love about Waltz, Tim Waltz, is did you hear? I wish I had it. I wish I had it keyed up, but I don't. When he was giving a speech and he said, "We can't afford 4 more years of this. We can't afford 4 more years of this." And I'm thinking to myself, "You're right. We can't afford 4 more years of this. Thank you." And his wife had turned the page. What are we going to do? We're going to turn the page. They were trying to call like Trump and JD Vance weird. He is the weirdest dude. And not only that, but he installed a snitch line for neighbors to snitch on each other during COVID. He's a Marxist, communist. Let's see. Conservative women are hot, seriously, according to SOO's. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just loud. Yeah, but so's AOC. So we need loud ones too. Montel smoked a lot of pot. Yeah, but Montel did it supposedly for he has a nerve condition. Is it MS? He's got something. So I don't care about that. Sean Ryan's interview. Go watch Sean Ryan's interview of JD Vance. You'll change your mind. He's very smart. I think he's smart. I just think he's kind of vanilla. Lauren likes Walz more than Vance. Well, of course you do. You're a Democrat. Of course you do. I just think Walz is a weirdo. I really do. I don't like people who set up snitch lines like the Soviets did, telling people to snitch on each other if they saw their neighbor go into another neighbor's house and they're not supposed to be there. And he had after the George Floyd riots, there's video of military going down the street, and if you were sitting on your front porch, they fired paintballs at you to demand that you go back in the house. He also is buddies and gave $100,000 of taxpayer money to a Muslim cleric who is pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, and has shown pro-Hitler movies. So he hangs out with some very unsavory people, in my point of view. Let's see. Herman Sal says, I think that Trump should have had Tulsi Gabbard as a VP choice. She was still a Democrat at the time. Can't do that. because she would be the deciding vote, the tiebreaker. Can't do it. She would have been she was a Democrat at the time. I liked her too. Porchview Farm says Walls is just as flaming as the villain. I swear, he prances on the stage and he doesn't know what to do with his arms. His arms are like all over the place. He's like a toddler when they can't sit still. I just don't like him. Walls is running the dog show for the CPP and PLA. Yeah, but this is true. Vance is much better than Walls. He's smarter, articulate, and doesn't want tampons in the boys' bathroom. Yeah, that's the other thing. I don't want tampons in the boys' bathroom. First of all, why are taxpayers paying for them, number one? And number two, why are taxpayers paying to put them in the boys' bathroom? That's what Tim Walz said. We're going to do that. Klinger on MASH saw more combat action than Tim Walsh. Yeah, I also don't like people who lie about their military service. Not big on that one either. Tampa, the paintball video is the best advertisement against him. It is. Teachers and parents of special needs kids like Walls too. I'm sure they do. But that's not the only reason to like him, because he has a special needs child. And of course, teachers like the Democrats. Of course they do. They got to keep the schools closed. They got to dictate to Joe Biden what they would and wouldn't do. They demanded billions of dollars in upgrades to the schools before they would come back. And then when they did them and spent all the money, they refused to come back. He lets them run the show. Of course they love him. And I know there are some people who are watching this video right now who have handicapped children. I know at least two people watching this video right now who have handicapped kids and don't like Tim Walz. So, yeah, Walz is being brought in to be the China connection because the Dems dumped Biden. That's another good point. Another reason not to like Tim Walz. Who honeymoons in China? He's made something like 30 trips to China. He loves China. That's why he loves a good snitch line, and he loves a good military down the road pointing at civilians who dare to sit on their front porch and shoot paintballs at him. Walz supports abortion up to the 9th month, right? And feminine hygiene products in the boys' rooms, yeah. Not in boys' only bathrooms. I think it is in boys' bathrooms is where they go. They attack the kid for being weird. Lauren, another thing. So we don't disagree on everything, Lauren. I initially thought that Tim Walz's son was like, what is going on there? But I immediately, having grown up with families who had kids who were handicapped special needs, I was like, okay, this kid's got something going on. There's something going on here. But nobody told us that Tim Walz's son was special needs. That was not a thing. So the initial reaction was, what is wrong with this kid? Especially because his dad jumps around the stage like a buffoon. So now you're watching the kid jump around. I think people just made that connection. Once people found out that the kid was special needs, that died down. I was telling people to back off, he's special needs, and people apologized to me on X and said, I didn't know that. I'm like, I didn't know that either. So I can't denigrate people who didn't have the knowledge. Once they had the knowledge, they backed off and apologized, which is the proper thing to do. You back off, you say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that, I apologize, and you take your post down. That's what sane people did. And I would say 99% of people did that. Were there a few jerks? Of course, but there's a few jerks all the time. So, all right. Oreo, sorry if there are any Democrats on here. I love you, but I just cannot vote for Harris Walz. I just can't. 1984 is upon us, according to Herman Sal. Star Driver says, so what are all those special needs kids going to do when all the funds for their programs dry up to take care of the illegal kids? It's already happening. That's true. That's very true. There are schools closing because there aren't enough funds to keep the schools open, because the money is going to shelters and programs for like ESL classes, translators, all that stuff for the kids coming in illegally who are being put in the classrooms and now need special services. Lauren would like to look at Project 2025. It's part of the next year, whether your past says no, or I think she means post says no. Donald Trump is disavowed. The creator of Project 2025 reamed Jamie Raskin on Capitol Hill yesterday. It's a great video. Watch it. I didn't think I would need it tonight. I didn't plan to talk on Project 2021. But she said, we do this periodically every couple of years. We've been doing it since I think the early 80s, 81, 82, and no one's ever talked about it before. But because we did one this year for 20, they've done project, 1990, project 1994, project, they've been doing it for 20 years. But this year, because the Democrats can use it as a way to influence the election, they're spreading it as a big lie. Trump has nothing to do with it. It's a Heritage Foundation is a 501c3. They cannot, and they adhere to the rules, they cannot get involved in elections. They have to be nonpartisan. They have to be nonpartisan. And like I said, they've been doing it forever. But this is the first year that Democrats finally figured out that the Heritage Foundation does this project, whatever, every so many years, and they latched onto it and they used it to smear Trump. And if they say it enough times, like Goebbels said, say it enough times, say it loud enough, and the truth and the fiction becomes the truth. So I don't know, Lauren, did you talk about any of the other projects from the past from the Heritage Foundation? My hunch is you didn't, because it was never a thing. Jack says Walls likes Clydesdales too. Yeah, weird dude. Star Driver, Trump has already said he's not part of Project 2025, even when a Mary's recent guest who was part of Project 2025 said that. Yes, go back. You know what, Star Driver? This is why I love doing these podcasts with just you guys and not necessarily a guest. I love my guests. Go to YouTube, look for Mary Walter Radio, click on the live tab. Click on, where is it? Yeah, click on the live tab and look for Melanie Collette. Look for the video with Melanie Collette. She worked on Project 2025. She will tell you right now. We even talked about it, and she said I had nothing to do. He was not, him or nobody from his administration was part of any of this. So I don't know what you're talking about. All right. So I see we have more viewers on Getter tonight than we did last week, when apparently it never went live on Getter. So that makes me feel better. There's more people over on Getter this week. Thank you so much. So yeah, thank you very much, Star Driver. Scott says, Lauren says, Scott, yes, it is. It is part of Trump's campaign. And have you read it yet? Dan says, Lauren, 2025 is like 925 pages. Did you read it in full? I have not. Yeah, it's been debunked millions of times. I mean, I don't know what Trump's supposed to do. You can sit here and say, no, it really is. Trump's come out and said it's not. The architects of Project in 2025 said Trump and no one on his campaign had anything to do with it. They do it every so many years. Nobody's ever said boo about any of their other projects. So, people aren't going to believe what they don't want to believe. So, I don't know what to tell you, Lauren. Love you, but I don't know, if you're not going to believe Trump, if you're not going to believe the architects of Project 2025, the guy who headed it up, who's done this before, had to quit because it was damaging the Trump campaign so much because of the propaganda coming from the left. Now Tax USA says, well, what's Kamala's playbook? We don't know. We don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Lauren says, I've read a lot. You don't know. You're right. I don't know what you read. That's fine. So you didn't have YouTube then. I don't know what that means, Lauren. I'm sorry. Gregory says, Bannon made the mistake of holding up a hard copy of Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation on War Room, and it opened floodgates. Yeah, absolutely. But again, it's been going on for decades. This is just propaganda from the left. And it doesn't matter what Trump says because people hate him. And if you hate Trump, you're not going to believe anything he says. You're going to say he's always lying. And even when it's proven to be true later or proven not to be true, whichever that happens to be, you're never going to believe it. It just dies and goes away. Just kind of like the P tape. It's real. Just died and went away. Russian dossier. Trump's colluding with the Russians. Died and went away. The laptop, is it real? Died and went away. That's what they do. The January 6th thing is going to slowly fade away. And now they're moved on to, it's Project 2025. They always have something because no one on X is telling me why I should vote for Kamala. They're only telling me how bad Trump is. When I ask them, well, tell me, why should I vote for Kamala? What's she going to do? What are her plans? They call me a Nazi. They dance around it. They can't answer it because she doesn't have anything. You go to her webpage, which she literally copy and pasted from Joe Biden's, but just forgot to take out some of the references to Biden. And then they fixed that up. So she literally copies and pastes from Joe Biden. And then Trump comes out with a policy and Kamala steals it. So she's for everything Trump is for. How can she be for everything Trump is for and then at the same time tell us Trump is terrible? But she's for everything he's for. It's like upside down world. Kamala is going to the border this week. Yes, she is. She finally found it. She's going to go to the border. You know why? Internal polling. That's why she's going to the border. Because they're not doing well in the inner cities. Chicago, we talked about it today on David Webb's show. Chicago, it is heating up because that TDA, is coming. They're not staying in the migrant shelters. They're going into the South Side and they're starting to take over territory where the South Side of Chicago, these gangs have existed for generations. And now they're starting to horn in on their territory. And the poor people in the South Side are starting to see that these guys get cars and they get EBT cards and they get bank cards and they're getting all sorts of things that they don't get. And they're starting to notice and go, wait a minute, how come these people are getting more than I do? What is going on here? And with the gangs, it's going to pop off. And I was playing audio today from some leaders in the South Side, and these guys are all former gang members who have grown up and become smarter and wiser. And they said that it's going to come to a head because TDA is better armed. They said that better armed than anything you've ever seen on the streets. So maybe Chicago needs some stricter gun laws because the ones they currently have aren't working because apparently illegal alien gangbangers don't pay attention to the law. And they're carrying around machine guns, AK-47s, the whole bit. And the other complaint that some of the gang members have, actual gang members who are active have is we get arrested and they don't. How come? And they're not happy about it. You're going to see a full-scale war in the South Side of Chicago, and they're warning about it, and they're asking for help, and they're getting nothing. This is going to pop off. It's going to be bad. Lauren says, Congress voted down doing anything at the border. Well, kind of not true. The House passed H.R. 2, which was just a border security bill, just a border bill. That's all it was. And it put back in, remain in Mexico and some of the other policies that were working before. And Chuck Schumer tabled it and refused to bring it to a vote on the floor in the Senate. What you refer to as the border bill was a second bill that allows 5,000 illegal immigrants into the country every single day, which comes out to almost 2 million a year, 1.8 and change a year, that are allowed to just walk in every day. That's in addition to all the new programs that Biden and Harris have put in, where you and I pay to fly these people into this country. We're paying from various countries. We are paying to send planes there to pick these people up to fly them in. They're not counted in that 5,000 a day. And when 5,000 a day is hit at that point, then a decision is made by Mayorkas whether he thinks it's enough of a problem, whether we need a break, and then he can shut it down. But if he thinks it's not a problem, then he doesn't have to shut it down. So it's not a border control bill at all. At all. The real border bill, the straight border bill with no funding for Ukraine, that other border bill that the Democrats came up with, that everybody talks about, that the Republicans voted against, more money for Ukraine, no money, not a dollar more to build a wall to protect our border, period, end of story. So Scott says the only purpose of the bill was to process people faster. Exactly. That's where the money was allocated to at the border, was to process people faster. That's what it was for. TDA is now in New York City. I guess they heard about the New York Hugathon, Hug a Thug justice system. Yep. Excuse me. All right. Wow. We got to get this has been such a great conversation. We didn't get to anything I wanted to get to here. Well, I did. I got to two big things, and I think we had a really good conversation about them. And I want to thank Lauren for bringing up immigration. Oh, she brought up Project 2025. Thank you. And she brought up immigration too. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate getting people on the podcast who are of different beliefs. I think it's good to have a conversation as long as we can all have that conversation respectfully and not like children. And that's the only way you learn is when you have your thoughts challenged, right? Lauren says do another podcast part two. I'll tell you what, not next Tuesday. We're not going to do it next Tuesday. I have a show to get ready for. I have to go feed the cats. I've got to put up that link on this podcast. And then I have to go get ready. I'm on the David Webb show tomorrow, 9 a.m. to noon on Project. Oh my goodness, on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125. On Thursday, I'm on KFAB from 3 to 7. That's out of, I believe you can get that on iHeart, KFAB, 3 to 7 Eastern. And then on Friday, I am on WHO. That is also iHeart, and that is 10 a.m. to noon. And then when I'm done at noon, I'm I think at noon it's bourbon time. And just everybody, there will not be a podcast next Tuesday. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. There will not be a podcast next Tuesday. Yeah, I'm going to be partying so much at my reunion on Saturday that really not that I can't do a reunion. I can't do a podcast on Tuesday. All right. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for Lauren. You were great. Thank you so much for all the topic suggestions. Thank you, everybody. You're so smart. And I just love being able to have a conversation with you. Please like the podcast if you have not done so yet. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. I would really appreciate that as well. Everybody have a fantastic weekend and catch me on the radio. I will be on Monday. No, Monday I'm not going to be on TV either. Oh, so I'll see you in 2 weeks here at the podcast or Monday on TV. Thank you so much. Follow me, Mary Walter Radio on X. Bye-bye.